of this. I think we're going to start to see secondary spread in the United States in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
And then what?
And then it's going to be a difficult month. I think people are going to start to shut down, certain activity to try to curtail the spread of this. I think we're going to start to see secondary spread in the United States in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
And then what?
And then it's going to be a difficult month. I think people are going to start to shut down, certain activity to try to curtail the spread of this. I think the next 2 weeks are pivotal. If we don't start to see outbreaks in the United States within the next 2 or 3 weeks, we might have dodged the bullet here. I think we're going to start to see secondary spread in the United States in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
And then what?
And then it's going to be a difficult month. I think people are going to start to shut down, certain activity to try to curtail the spread of this.
Former FDA commissioner and now a CNBC contributor who is also a member of Pfizer's board, Dr. Gottlieb.
There's probably tens, if not hundreds of thousands of cases in China. I think we're going to have outbreaks here in the U.S. We need to start preparing for that. To avert an epidemic, we need to do better diagnostic screening.
Not vaccines. Yeah.
And right now, the diagnostic test we have requires samples to be sent off. It takes a number of days to get a positive result back. What you really need is a point-of-care diagnostic that allows you to screen people out quickly. And if people, have presumptive infection, isolate them.
Can I just ask,
do
we know anything about the incubation? I've heard anywhere from 1 to 14 days.
Yeah, it looks like it's about a week. So you've seen a range of 2 to 10 days in some of the more recent analysis. Some people said up to 2 weeks, but I think a rule of thumb should be it's about a week. That's typical of a coronavirus. So that's what we should be working from right now.
Basically, as a
Chinese
are over.
Well, I want to ask you, as a former FDA commissioner, would it be irresponsible of you to give an actual estimate of what you think the actual cases are, or just say that you probably are underestimating by a factor of what?
Well, I think it's dramatically underestimated based on everything.
Dramatically a factor of what?
Tens of thousands. And, there's some analyses coming out that said that there may be as many as 300,000 cases in China right now.
And we're talking about 4,000.
I think we're going to start to see
talking about hundreds of thousands
versus,
right. Also, remember, they only rolled diagnostics out to most of the healthcare facilities in late January. So there's a whole bunch of cases they didn't even test. So there must be people who passed away from viral-like pneumonia that weren't even tested that we'll never capture. If you put it in perspective, in terms of the reporting that we have right now, we know the numerator, we don't know the denominator. So it does suggest that maybe it's less virulent than you would suppose based on the statistics that we have. That doesn't make it any less concerning.
When you look at the steps that they're taking, do you say this is an overreaction, complete underreaction?
Well, the problem is we don't know what they're really looking at. I think the Chinese haven't been forthcoming with information, so we've been patting them on the back for being good actors in this case because they're behaving better than they did with SARS. They're still not behaving well. They've concealed key information, including that this was spreading to healthcare workers, which they didn't admit to last week. So we don't really know the full scope of what they're facing. And it's going to be a difficult month. I suppose that they're facing a very large epidemic and they're taking pretty draconian measures. Some of these are not going to work. The quarantines might not be effective.
0.0002 or whatever the influenza virus is in terms of mortality can add up to hundreds of thousands. If this is really 2%, which sounds okay, that's a big number.
Well, even if this is 0.5%.
If it's 0.5, and I don't know what, do you have a feel for what it might be? What was SARS? Was SARS really 7?
About 10, yeah.
10.
Oh, I thought it was 7.
Higher in healthcare workers. Spread of this. But I think we're going to start to see secondary spread in the United States. This does look like it could potentially be in that sort of middle ground between something that's contagious enough to spread very efficiently, but still severe enough to cause a lot of harm.
You were with us.
And then what?
And then it's going to be a difficult month. I think people are going to start to shut down, certain activity to try to curtail the spread of this. I think we're going to start to see secondary spread in the United States in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
And then what?
And then it's going to be a difficult month. I think people are going to start to shut down, certain activity to try to curtail the spread of this.
Last week and said at that point it was probably too late to stop the spread in China, but perhaps it was here. What do you think about the increased numbers we've since heard?
Well, I think we need to change our posture here in the United States. I think we need to have a posture where we're going to try to detect outbreaks early, and that means broadening the screening criteria and broadening the capacity to do screening here in the United States. Right now, the posture seems to be focused on preventing introduction of the virus into the United States. That's helpful, but we have to assume it's already here and circulating. What we want to do is spot outbreaks early and step in to take measures to prevent small outbreaks from becoming larger outbreaks and an epidemic.
How do you do that? I thought the CDC were the only ones who could actually do the testing on this.
Well, that's just it. The CDC should broaden that test to public health agencies and local labs, maybe even hospital labs. It's a simple PCR-based test. A lot of people could run it. We also should change the criteria for screening. Anyone who's presenting with an atypical, a bad pneumonia that has a negative screen on what we call the multiplex test for viral forms of pneumonia, and it's a suspicious case, they should probably get tested
even if they haven't been to China?
Even if they haven't been to China, because what's going to happen is, in a setting of an outbreak, it's going to be secondary spread. It's not going to be someone who visited China who gets sick. It's going to be someone who interacted with someone who visited China who was sick and maybe asymptomatic or had mild illness. Very spread in the United States in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
And then what?
And then it's going to be a difficult month. I think people are going to start to shut down, certain activity to try to curtail the spread of this. I think we're going to start to see secondary spread in the United States in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
And then what?
And then it's going to be a difficult month. I think people are going to start to shut down, certain activity to try to curtail the spread of this. I think we're going to start to see secondary spread in the United States in the next 2 or 3 weeks. We're going to spot an outbreak. Right now, if you believe that about 10 to 20% of people develop pneumonia, so it's only a small fraction will end up in the hospital. You might need dozens of cases in a city before you have enough suspicious cases showing up in any one institution to elicit testing. So you want to get that trigger earlier so you can spot small outbreaks, prevent them from becoming big outbreaks. This is so novel. People don't have any cross immunity. It might still transfer into summertime, but we should hope that that's going to be a backstop.
Talking about the summertime, but let's talk about the economic impact for a second. If you're trying to wait till the summer, what else are you going to have to shut down between now and then?
Well, look, I think the next 2 weeks are pivotal. If we don't start to see outbreaks in the United States within the next 2 or 3 weeks, we might have dodged the bullet here. I think we're going to start to see secondary spread in the United States in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
And then what?
And then it's going to be a difficult month. I think people are going to start to shut down, certain activity to try to curtail the spread of this. The good news is probably that people are sufficiently concerned that I think we will be willing to take measures that will be necessary to stop this. And then it's going to be a difficult month. I think people are going to start to shut down, certain activity to try to curtail the spread of this. I think we're going to start to see secondary spread in the United States in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
And then what?
And then it's going to be a difficult month. I think people are going to start to shut down, certain activity to try to curtail the spread of this.
I think we're going to see this thing spread in the next 2 weeks, they say. CNBC predicts a massive outbreak and shutdown of the USA. Load up on your ammo, ladies and gentlemen. Get your supplies now while they last. And as soon as they start announcing, cases in the cities, it's going to be mad panic everywhere. Everything's going to be gone like it's Black Friday. If you feel like having a Black Friday experience in the middle of an outbreak while everybody's contaminated trying to get toilet paper, you got another thing coming. It's called the Wuhan supervirus, and it ain't no joke, ladies and gentlemen. This is the latest video from the quarantine zone. Check this out, ladies and gentlemen. You are looking at the Wuhan supervirus. This thing is like a bioweapon, spreading faster than you can understand because nobody's inoculated for it. There's no vaccines. It's going to be like a wildfire. It's going to come in like a tidal wave. And right now, what are they telling the rich people on CNBC? The outbreak is coming. So they're getting their supplies. They're going to Tahiti or wherever. And you're just sitting there watching the Super Bowl. Don't you feel stupid out there? You should feel stupid. Like and share. Get this information out there. Let people know where we've landed. Stranger Than Fiction News. Censored more times than anyone can count. And right now, it's pretty much illegal to upload these videos from China. And we've got other videos where you see the officers come by, basically arresting people for this, big lectures. It's huge, man. It's huge. This is a big deal. They don't want you to know the real numbers. Everybody knows that. But the videos that come out, are more than suggestive. And this is just a sample of what's going on out there. But it's eyes on the ground, and we can see, inside the quarantine zone. And this doesn't look like, a typical Sunday, if you know what I mean. So people should take this seriously. And not just be like, oh, well, it'll blow by. I want you to imagine sitting at an airport, right? A busy airport like O'Hare or something like that. And you're looking at the arrivals and the departures. You're looking at all the big cities, right? That's what a major, airport is like. And the Wuhan airport is like twice the size of O'Hare. And you may never have heard of Wuhan, but Wuhan has heard of you. And they come over all the time. Thousands per day in every major city. So this thing is like, has seeded the entire planet, and it's preparing to bloom, and no one's inoculated for it. It's the worst case scenario. It's a nightmare. And right now, they're revising the death rates up and up. And we've got videos of the crematoriums, and this is the kind of stuff the Nazis never could have dreamed of. Case numbers right now just broke 20,000, and it's 10 times, 20 times worse than that. And with all the body bags that are out there, you can bet the death rate is much more than 2%. And even like a fraction of 1%, like the flu, can kill 80 to 100,000 people in the year. Imagine what this thing's going to do as it ravages the entire country and shuts everything down. You're going to want to start thinking about, where you're going to quarantine for a month. Start thinking about that now instead of being, stuck in the hotel with somebody or something. Think of your exit strategy now. Start loading up, start supplying. This ain't a joke. This is the latest footage from the crematorium, and look at these doors. These doors are the doors to the ovens, literally. And back here, this is the waiting line. And it looks like they're having a busy day. And this is just, a fraction of what must be going on. But look, we don't even have to narrate these videos. We could just play them for you, in their original language, and I think you'd get the idea. And so people that want to say, don't worry about this. Well, CNBC's worried about this. They're telling all their people, hey, it's coming. And check out this latest video from the epicenter. This is a secured location. This is how a bioweapon works. See? And don't think that this is some kind of like freak occurrence, ladies and gentlemen, because we've got other videos where people are going out like that. And, most of the time you just see the body bags after they stop like quaking. This is the drop dead virus. This truly is like a bioweapon out there. And people that want to say, this is just some kind of random mutation, it seems a little strange. It just broke out couple miles from the lab, and this thing is just like spreading everywhere, ladies and gentlemen. And it's got properties of the flu. It's got properties of the flu, and it's got cut and paste insertions from HIV that fold up into a super spike that make it like AIDS. It's like airborne AIDS that spreads like the flu, causing heart attacks and pneumonia. How does that sound? And not only that, it's got a short incubation for a quick ramp up, and then it's got the longevity to, outlast a quarantine. And, ladies and gentlemen, so much more. I mean, this virus is a super virus. And it's stealthy too. Most people are shedding the virus without even exhibiting symptoms. So there's no telling how far it's spread right now. We've done the math, and the simple math tells us that it's going to take 3 to 4 weeks from the initial, seeding to bloom. We're at week 2. We kind of played this graphic in the previous broadcast, but it's just like, simple math, if you will. And projected cases based on if this is a magnitude 2, 3, or 4 outbreak, 2 people infecting 2 people or 3 people infecting 3 people kind of thing. And so, this scales up rather quickly, but we're not scheduled for any kind of storm for another 2 weeks. We're just starting week 3. And again, you got to imagine, at the height of the epidemic in this mega city of 11 million people, you got everybody, going to the airport. Here's another video of the shakes. But you got people going to the airport, going to every major city, every major hub, every major destination. This thing is, all over the world right now, blooming. And people should prepare. If you're just joining us late, we're going to play the clips from CNBC for you. If we can get the video guy out there.
I think we're going to start to see secondary spread in the United States in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
And then what?
And then it's going to be a difficult month. I think people are going to start to shut down, certain activity to try to curtail the spread of this. I think we're going to start to see secondary spread in the United States in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
And then what?
And then it's going to be a difficult month. I think people are going to start to shut down, certain activity to try to curtail the spread of this.
So why does he think there's going to be secondary spreading? Because this major airport at the height of the epidemic, where it seems like everybody was contaminated, was not only contaminating their entire country, but was shipping out flights every day to every major city on the planet. So, we're talking thousands of people a day for at least 7 to 10 days. There must be, thousands of cities, literally. Well, certainly cities that are along the major trails from Wuhan to New York, for example. You would expect that would be the center of the first wave, and it'll just kind of ripple, kind of hub and spoke style from the big cities. And on the left here, you're looking at the latest footage from their crematorium, body bags, lined up, and you can see the major ovens. It's industrial. It's like, them producing iPhones and the like, no evidence. And this is perfect, ladies and gentlemen, because, instead of bringing, Zyklon B to the gas chambers, they've brought Zyklon C to the super cities, and they've turned our cities into huge concentration camps, surveilled and surrounded by a geofence of cell towers and the like. And so we're just sitting there, trapped. We can't leave the city for the most part, and soon you seriously won't be able to leave the city unless you're smart and you think about what you want to do. But the last place you want to be right now is in a big city. And, these people, if you look at the demographics of the big cities, I mean, it's mostly Democrats. It looks like Sodom and Gomorrah is about to burn here, ladies and gentlemen, no kidding. And you just have to wonder, if the reinforcements haven't just arrived. And we're going to be seeing some historical, biblical stuff out there, to say the least. I mean, right now in Africa, they've got this huge locust infestation. It's starting to look like the movie The Ten Commandments, ladies and gentlemen. And that pyramid on the back of the dollar bill, that represents New Babylon. And this virus is coming for them. So hunker down. It's going to be a long 28 weeks until this thing blows over, and then some. But, the numbers must be staggering. We must be talking about, thousands of victims at this stage, and it's just begun. But this represents a syndrome. It went from, stealthy to the entire country shut down in 2 months. And we're basically on week 3 of that. We just started week 3. Best estimates are that it was just kind of like, coming over mid-January. So mid-January till they shut everything down the 22nd, the 23rd, gives it approximately 7 to 10 days, plus or minus. But probably at least 7 days, thousands of flights, 24/7 a day to every major city. Everybody should expect a big worldwide outbreak hitting it around the same time. The second outbreak, which would represent, the seeds from that 1 week, 10-day window. And depending on how fast this spreads after that, that's going to determine quite a bit of stuff. But China is going to be kind of like, looking into the future. We can see what's going to happen to us 3 weeks ahead of time. And the problem right now is we're not getting a whole lot of information except for these videos that are coming through VPN or, virtual private networks that kind of go around the firewall and the like. So we're only getting a sample, but we're getting new videos every day that we've never seen before of, this kind of stuff. Worse and worse, in fact. And so we have a window into the future here. We can see what's going to happen. And they didn't have the luxury of having that window because for the first few weeks, they just thought it was the flu. And, they've got an active kind of, intelligence thing going on over there in the hospitals ever since SARS. And so they got the kits there. They've got everything they need to really start looking what these pneumonias are in case another outbreak occurs. But even they were basically taken by surprise and they didn't see this outbreak coming. They thought maybe there was a little thing, and maybe SARS, okay, another 800 people killed, 10,000 people infected, but they weren't expecting anything like this, you would think. And now look at it, the whole country literally is shut down, and it's spread worldwide, and the neighboring countries are freaking out because they got a ton more cases, and now they're getting the secondary transmission, and all of these countries are going to turn into a China syndrome as well, and they're well on their way. And so I think that our authorities should be doing as much as possible, testing in local hospitals, and going the extra effort, getting everything in place, the kits, the suits. It's coming. And undoubtedly they're already kind of like going that way. But if they start announcing on television, look, it's the end of the world, everybody's going crazy, especially in America, you can bet it's going to be, something else, right? Martial law at best, Mad Max at worst. And so, what will happen to America 28 weeks later? What do you think out there, ladies and gentlemen? Let us know in the comments. We're live hacking the matrix through this beast system network known as ScrewTube. And we've had many channels censored on these socialist media platforms. They just try and mind control you through the television. I mean, you've noticed like the news reports on TV, it's nothing like this. They're not showing you any of the videos. They show you like empty hospitals and just nice, calm, serene kind of situations. They don't show you like the millions of people trying to flee, the Resident Evil type of scenes out there, the massive, crematoriums, right? You might have thought that was a joke when you first heard of that, but we've got the video of that, and it's something else. Body bags everywhere. People even at the grocery store just keeling over into the vegetables. Who wants some of that salad? You feeling like a little chicken Caesar right now? Look a little tasty. Start stocking up, ladies and gentlemen, because it looks like all your prepping was worth it. It's happening. And it's like the biblical plague right now in Africa with the locusts. You got earthquakes, wars, you got this thing coming through. You can see the beast system for what it is out there. They got the barcode 666 on everything. I mean, it's like the pages of the Bible playing out before your very eyes. All right, what side are you on? You need to find people that are like you, survivors. Be like John Connor out there. Start thinking like that. All these movies that you ever saw on, at the movie theater and the like, they were there to prepare you for what's coming, and it's coming. Just go look at what's happening in China right now. It's happening right now over there. And, there's probably a lot you could say about, Christianity over there. And it's looking like the end times now. But I think there'll be plenty of time for that. The most important thing is to survive and to be prepared. And look, it's not your imagination. The television is 24/7 product placement for, the dark side, for Luciferian ideologies, and all of these, world leaders, have this demonic morphology. I mean, they're not looking like Romulans or Klingons. They literally look like demons, ladies and gentlemen. What are the chances of that? And if you want to know more, check out the pages of the Bible. But right now, it looks like the movie 10 Commandments. We got plagues, earthquakes, and pestilences and the like. Let our people go. We need a free country for Christians out there. It seems like these Luciferians have plenty of countries. We need a homeland like the Jews, a Christian homeland, ladies and gentlemen. Where will that be? Will it be America? Will it be one state in America? Can we get one state that's a Christian state, please? Is that okay? Or does it all have to be like California? Have you seen what they've done to the place? I mean, this isn't the time for politics, but let's not forget what we're up against. And, regardless of, what weapons lab this thing escaped from, it's here now. And these are the latest numbers, and they're only getting worse. And even, CNBC is telling the investors out there, prepare. But they're telling the rest of the sheeple on NBC to just, go back to shopping. So you can see the difference in messages there depending on, what class you're in. But here on the left are the latest is the latest footage of the crematorium. Those doors there are the doors to the ovens, and those yellow body bags are dead people, and this outbreak is real. And there's nothing but videos like that out there if you speak Chinese. But in the American press, it's like, hey, no big deal. Don't worry about it. It's okay. Does this look okay to you? Does this look like Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood? Does this look like, Leave It to Beaver? We've come a long way in just a few amount of years, and here we are now, ladies and gentlemen. And Sodom and Gomorrah is prepared to burn. And, we're telling all the Christians out there, hunker down, get ready, because the shit is coming. And it's going to be biblical. That's what it looks like. And, until you actually start seeing scenes like this in your neighborhood, you're not really going to understand what that means, but you're about to. And so we advise everyone to start preparing. Again, we're going to play this video clip from NBC if you're joining us late, so that you can hear it for yourselves, ladies and gentlemen.
I think we're going to start to see secondary spread in the United States in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
And then what?
And then it's going to be a difficult month. I think people are going to start to shut down, certain activity to try to curtail the spread of this. I think we're going to start to see secondary spread in the United States in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
And then what?
And then it's going to be a difficult month. I think people are going to start to shut down, certain activity.
It's going to be a difficult month. People are going to start shutting down like in China, and it's going to be just like that. Drones probably coming to your window, measuring your temperature like Minority Report, and all of a sudden all your rights are suspended, and, being an American is just out the window. And so I think people need to prepare and, start their networks, get their networks informed on the same page. I'm sure a lot of people out there, have some friends somewhere, right? And get everybody on the same page. Start prepping, start getting some two-way radios. You never know how bad the shit is going to get. But, it is looking like a class 4 hurricane, 5 hurricane is coming our way, and there's just no escaping it. Now, there's obviously things you can do to protect yourselves, like good hygiene, stay away from crowds, give yourself as much distance as you can between you and the next person. And if you start seeing the numbers, change, then obviously start doing what the Asians are doing to survive. Again, you've got this window into the future, a couple weeks, maybe a couple months into the future, to see what the situation may look like here. And undoubtedly, we're going to get cities that look like this. Will it go, beyond some of the mega cities? It's hard to say. I mean, there's a lot more space between, our cities. And, it usually takes 3 to 5 hours to drive to the next big city. But look, in theory, during the height of the epidemic in Wuhan, where virtually everybody was infectious, that major airport, twice the size of O'Hare, was connected to every other major city in the world, and it had a week or 10 days to spread. I mean, imagine being at the airport, watching the arrivals and the departures, right? All the cities there. We're talking a major airport. And undoubtedly there are, the seeds that have, landed there. And given the numbers, before this doubles into something where they're going to actually see it in the emergency rooms, it's going to take 4 or 5 weeks. But we're on week 3. So we can start expecting, major changes, in the next 14 days. And it'll start 5 cases in this city, 10 cases in that city. And when you start seeing that, I mean, literally be ready to hunker down for 30 days, because you don't want to be, anywhere near the blast radius of this bioweapon. You don't want to be downwind of it. You don't want to, deal with it for the most part, especially if you're at the at-risk group, which seems to be over 60 and with pre-existing conditions. But we're getting, various spectrums of reports as far as who's being affected. People as young as 30 with severe enough conditions where they need to go on a respirator. But below 30, we're not getting a lot of cases. So I think that's going to, leave the millennials and Generation Z, like the last generation, they should be okay. But I think everybody else should treat this as a serious concern. And I guess we'll just have to wait to see how this develops. But it's pretty clear right now that California has been infested. And if I was president right now, I'd start mobilizing the National Guard, probably the Army, everything that works, and start working on shutting down the West Coast. Everything west of the Rockies should be, prepared to lock down. And they should basically use the Rockies as a natural kind of like defense, and just shut like the roads, the tunnels, and the like. And whatever happens west of the Rockies, well, it's mostly Democrat, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? It's kind of like, poetic in a way. It's their beast system that spawned, this crisis. And it's their beast system that's going to eat it the worst, undoubtedly. When the numbers settle, I think we're going to be, conservatives are going to be up significantly. So, look, if we can expect a 10% change in mostly Democrat districts, 10% less Democrats across the board, that puts us back up, in the numbers. So with the election coming up, that's going to be helpful. But you just have to wonder, because they're just letting this thing blow in, and for the most part, it kind of looks like 9/11 all over again. They're standing down, the plane is 20 miles out, the plane is 10 miles out. Do the orders still stand, sir? Of course the orders still stand. So, this thing is blowing in on purpose, have no doubt about it. And so it's a real complex equation. But, if you really want to know more about what's going on out there, it's in the Bible, literally. And you could spend all day thinking about what's there and applying it to the real world, and you'll never be disappointed. So, and in times like this, gather around with the ones that are close to you and start reading the Bible, start saying your prayers, stay out of trouble, and start preparing. We live in a physical world. We're supposed to prepare for floods. This is kind of like, a massive flood. Everybody get in their ark and ride out this tidal wave that's coming in. And in a sense, it's kind of like, the first books in the Bible, and this is about liberating our people. This is about Christians being free in America again. And, what's coming here that's going to wipe out, a lot of people in San Francisco and the West Coast. This is part of the plan. And I think people should understand why this is happening. And again, there'll be plenty of time to talk about this as we're all sitting in quarantine, watching the numbers skyrocket and watching, these videos appear on our city streets, people dropping down. Again, if you haven't seen the latest videos, we're going to play it for you here. Hold on, not that one, ladies and gentlemen. The video guy's on vacation. There we go. At a secret location here. Secured location. Okay, so this is what's landed in America, right? The police can't help you. The fire department can't help you once you're infected with this virus. And there's no telling like how many people are going to end up like this. But we're seeing a lot of videos like this, so it must be a lot of people. Because I doubt everybody that's dropping dead is being recorded. And making it, and certainly that video isn't making it out of the country. So this is just a sample of what's going on out there in terms of these videos. But we've been seeing nothing but body bags and now huge crematoriums. It's industrial. As far as what's going on out there. So everybody's got to start looking out for each other, networking, getting prepared. We don't expect the first wave for another 10 days, perhaps 2 weeks. And, as soon as the first real stories hit the news, everybody's going to panic. Everything's going to be gone. And then, you're going to be 2 steps behind. Get 2 steps ahead of this thing. Start preparing now. You'll be glad you did. Because nobody's ever seen anything like this before. And Cnbc is now telling its people, start preparing. While the regular NBC is telling everybody, hey, it's okay. So who are you going to believe, CNBC or MSNBC, when it comes to
try to
this
curtail the
outbreak
spread
here?
of this? I think we're going to start to see secondary spread in the United States in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
And then what?
And then it's going to be a difficult month. I think people are going to start to shut down, certain activity to try to curtail the spread of this. I think we're going to start to see secondary spread in the United States in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
And then what?
And then it's going to be a difficult month.
And then what? It's going to be a difficult month. You see this? This is the difficult month they're talking about. If you're joining us late, watch this on replay on demand. Check out our video archives. Check out our website, stfnreport.com. And we'll leave it there until the next time. If you're listening to this, you are the resistance.